All right, let's talk about ghosting. You know the feeling, that sudden, complete silence from someone you thought you were connecting with. It is so confusing, it's frustrating, and let's be real, it hurts a lot. But why? Why does it sting so much? Well, today we're going to dig into the surprisingly ancient reason for that very modern kind of pain. I mean, chances are you have. It's a feeling so many of us know. You send that message, you see that it's been delivered, maybe even read, and then just nothing. Crickets. And the hours start to tick by, and then they turn into days, and that silence just gets louder and louder inside your head.
Oh, you know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That horrible, sinking feeling deep down in your stomach. It feels like you've been physically punched. And here's the thing, it's not just in your head. It turns out there's a very real, very old reason you feel it right there. Get this. That gut-wrenching pain you feel from a 21st century text message is actually an ancient piece of survival software firing off inside your brain. It was designed that way for a very, very good reason, and it's been protecting us for literally hundreds of thousands of years. So you could almost think of it like this, a 200,000-year-old prank. Your brain is playing a trick on you. It's reacting to a modern digital problem with an ancient life-or-death solution. To understand why, we need to rewind the clock way back.
Okay, imagine you're one of our ancestors, 200,000 years ago. Your entire life, your very survival, is tied to your tribe. They help you find food, they protect you from predators, they keep you warm. So what's the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen to you? Social rejection. Being kicked out of the group wasn't just embarrassing, it was literally a death sentence. All alone, you'd be a sitting duck for saber-toothed tigers or just the elements.
And that's the key right there. Over all that time, our brains evolved to see social rejection as the same thing as imminent death. It hardwired an incredibly powerful alarm system into us to warn us of any threat to our place in the group because our lives actually depended on it.
So that's the ancient why. Now let's get into the how. How does this ancient programming actually play out in our modern brains when we get ghosted? What is going on in there? You know, we usually think about pain in two different ways, right? There's physical pain, like you break your arm, you stub your toe, it's obvious. And then there's social pain, emotional pain, that sting of rejection you feel when you're ghosted. But what if I told you that your brain literally can't tell the difference between the two? This is where it gets absolutely wild. Neuroscientists have used fMRI scans to look inside people's brains, and they found that the exact same areas that light up when you feel physical pain also light up when you feel social rejection. So, to your brain, a broken heart might as well be a broken leg. It genuinely doesn't know the difference. So boom, you get ghosted, and that ancient alarm system just goes haywire. It lights up those physical pain centers, which is why it actually hurts. You can get a huge drop in dopamine, which makes you feel awful and totally unmotivated. A full-blown panic response kicks in, as the oldest, most primitive part of your brain starts screaming, "Danger! Tribal exile imminent! We are going to die!" All because of a text that went unanswered. Okay, so that first hit of pain, that's automatic. You can't really help it. That's the ancient alarm doing its thing. But what happens next, you know, the hours and days of anxiety that can follow, that comes from something else. It comes from the story you start telling yourself to explain the silence.
See, our brains hate a vacuum. They need an explanation. So when we're left with silence, we become a story editor, and we start writing a story to fill in the gap. And what's the story we almost always write? It's a bad one, right? I'm not good enough. I must have said something wrong. They definitely found someone better. But the thing is, the real story often has very little to do with us. The much more likely reality is usually pretty boring. Maybe it just wasn't a good fit, maybe they got slammed at work, or maybe, just maybe, it's about their own stuff, not you.
So how do we break out of this loop? How do we stop writing these awful, painful stories? Well, the first tool we can use is actually an ancient one. It comes from Stoic philosophy, and it's a really simple way to get a handle on things. I want you to picture two buckets, just two. The first one is your bucket. This bucket holds everything you actually truly have control over. The words you decided to use, the effort you put in, the moment you chose to hit send. Now the second bucket, that's their bucket. It holds everything you have zero control over, how they react, what they're feeling, and if they ever decide to reply at all. And here is the secret. All of our anxiety, all the panic, the obsessive checking of the phone, all of it comes from trying to control what's in their bucket. And that's an impossible job. It'll drive you nuts. The moment you learn to put all your energy and focus exclusively on your bucket, on the things you can actually do, that's where you find peace. You did your part.
The rest isn't up to you.
All right, so that's defense. That's how you manage the feeling internally. But what about offense? What if we could actually build up our immunity to rejection itself? This next idea, it's a little weird, a little counterintuitive, but it's an incredibly powerful way to rewire your brain.
100. What is this number? This is your new mission. But here's the twist. You are not trying to get 100 yeses. Nope. Your new goal is to go out there and collect 100 rejections, 100 no's. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, there's a method to the madness.
When you totally flip the script and make your goal a no instead of a yes, everything changes. A rejection stops feeling like this big personal judgment on your worth, and it becomes what it really is, just data. It's information. It's a data point that tells you, hey, this wasn't the right fit, or this job wasn't the right match. And by actively looking for it, you desensitize yourself. You teach that ancient part of your brain over and over that, hey, look, we gotta know, and we're still here. We didn't die. You diffuse the panic response, and man, you learn and grow so much faster.
So, let's redefine this, shall we? Ghosting isn't a statement about who you are. It's a painful, for sure, but totally survivable glitch. It's an echo from a time long gone, a misfiring of an old alarm system. It has absolutely nothing to do with your value as a person.
So I'll leave you with this. If you can stop seeing rejection as a threat and start seeing it as just information, as data that helps you grow, well, then the question totally changes. It's no longer, how do I avoid getting hurt? The question becomes, what am I going to learn next?